All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Mets Weekly Podcast. We are live at this very moment on YouTube and on X for post-game coverage of the Mets versus Brewers Game 1 of the NL Wildcard Series. And we've got some good news. The Mets are in the win column for Game 1. But before we get into every single thing, every single detail, I want to remind everyone to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel for the live recordings of this podcast, which until the Mets are eliminated from the postseason, they will be post games after every single game. For those of you watching live or on playback and you want to join the conversation, make sure to turn on those post notifications to know when we go live. Now, for those of you in the live chat as of right now, I want to let you know that we love reading your comments, your questions, your concerns, and every single thought that pops into your head about this team. And if you feel like you're being ignored, you're not being ignored. You're just being starred throughout the show so we can pull up as many as we can to keep the flow of the conversation going. Also, remember to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok, which we just wrapped up Frank's post-games thoughts for every single Mets regular season game titled The Mets Frankly Postgame. For our audio listeners, make sure to follow us on all of your favorite listening platforms to not miss the audio version of new episodes that go up at 9 a.m. the following day that these are recorded. And for those of you tuning in on audio right now, make sure to tune into our pregame shows around 90 minutes before the game. And that will be going all Mets postseason long, but only on our YouTube channel, as the post games will be considered the podcasts that go out on audio. Now, without further ado, proper English, that would be nice. Let's get into our post-game show. So the Mets' final score, 8-4, go to Milwaukee, beat a team that has beat up on us all year, and now they have back-to-back wins. One was very important for them to get into the playoffs, and now one of them is an actual playoff win. Frank, the overall takeaways that you have from this game, I mean, lots of positives. We'll get into all the specifics, but I mean, the energy of postseason baseball is back for New York Mets fans, and it was good to see it start as a positive.
Yeah, I mean, things got off to a rough start. You go down 1-2-3 in the first inning. Brewers take a first inning lead. They got a bunch of guys on base, and you're like, oh, here we go. And then the Mets tie it up, and then the Brewers get back in front, and you're like, oh boy, it's going to be one of those games, isn't it? And then the Mets just absolutely explode, which will be like the main topic of, say, that big 5-run fifth inning as you have in the title. And then they just held on. And I have to be honest, when they scored that 5-run fifth inning, I was like, is this going to end up being a shootout where it's just going to be like one team comes back, the other team comes back, the other team comes back? But that ended up being it. I mean, once that fifth inning happened, that was that. So just so much credit to so many guys that we're going to get into. But for me, I think a big takeaway is a couple of things. Number one, scoring 8 runs is always great. But you scored 8 runs after coming here from a doubleheader where you traveled, and you had traveled before that. So you thought that, oh, maybe this team is going to be a little tired after doubleheader, celebrations, things like that. How much energy are they going to have? No, they had plenty of energy. They also scored 8 runs without hitting any home runs. So we talked about in the pre-show, we were like, oh, you're going to need some home runs against Peralta. You're not going to string together hits and walks and things like that. Well, no, I mean, they did. I mean, hustle, just they did everything they do. Go the opposite field. They showed a lot of different approaches. And then the other thing, we talk so much about this team goes where Lindor goes. If he does well, they do. If he doesn't do well, they don't do well. He went 0-4 in this game with a walk, and they still put up 8 runs. So I feel like there really is a lot to like here as far as like if we did this pregame show knowing what we know, and you told me Mets aren't going to hit a home run, Severino's going to give up a few runs, and Lindor's going to go hitless, yet they're still going to score 8 runs, I would have been like, how? You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't have believed you. But yeah, that's what this team does. I mean, they continue to prove me wrong. They continue to exceed expectations. And it just seems a lot of the times when you are ready to count them out, when you think that they're not going to do it, that's when they pull it off. And you know what? They're in a really, really good spot right now, because to me, I felt that this was going to be the tough game. I thought game 2 was going to be easier, having a more rested bullpen, having Sean out there, not facing Freddie Peralta. I thought game 1 was going to be the tough one, and they secured it rather easily. So they're in a wonderful spot. They showed the graphic, but in this new wildcard format, team that goes up 1-0 wins more than 80% of the time. So doesn't necessarily mean the series is over, but they're off to obviously a fantastic start. And listen, in 2022, we were down 1-0 after getting blown out of the first game. So already we're in a much better position.
Obviously, I mean, the fact that we, we're able to get a little bit more of a collective team performance as compared to what we got in game 1 2 years ago. And I'm not trying to compare that because it's two different teams, but I'm pretty sure Eduardo Escobar was the only guy who actually was awake that entire game 1. And you had pretty much everybody in this lineup contribute in some way, shape, or form. And I think that, at the end of the day, this is what the Mets have been doing all year long to actually win ball games. And to see that type of identity on the field in playoff fashion, it gives you hope that maybe this team can carry deep into this postseason. Now, this is obviously just one win. You got to win tons of other games and get the timely hitting and get the timely pitching in a lot more games than just one. But it's definitely a lot better of a start than going all the way into a 1-0 hole, especially in the last situation where it was Max Scherzer who was supposed to come through. And, I mean, at the end of the day, I think that, when the Mets come into some of these situations, and they've overcome a lot of these situations that are not something that a lot of teams take lightly. For some reason, it just continues to make them stronger. I don't know how. You thought that maybe there was going to be some guys hungover, sleeping. I don't know. You knew that Freddie Peralta was going to be a tough matchup, and the Mets treated it like it was pretty much any ordinary game. And to see them just play loose like this, it gives you some confidence. And they're going to probably play a little bit more loose tomorrow with with not a commanding lead, obviously, because it's the highest lead that you can have without winning the series. But going into this on the road, it's not easy to do. And not to mention the travel schedule that they've had with the unfortunate types of events that we have had. They have overcome a lot in this game, in this season, and it was just another display of that. And I think that, at the end of the day, a lot of Mets fans really appreciated that performance of how, yes, they went down twice in that game. They fought all the way back, but not only did they fight all the way back, they brought the hammer down. And not to mention, this is against a pitching guru factory, whatever you want to call it, in the Milwaukee Brewers. Our guy David Stearns, he used to work here. He knows this organization. Not to mention, this is the same team that kicked our ass for 5 straight games at the beginning of the season and at the end of the season. So to see this kind of turn of events where the Mets get a game and hopefully they continue and win this series, getting the wins where it matters against the Brewers, it pretty much just, the dust just gets settled as to where you think about where this team was, losing to the Brewers in the regular season, but when it matters, they're coming up big. Now, I believe this is now, I don't know what the correct statistic is, but it's quite a losing streak for the Brewers. They now have 9 straight postseason losses. I mean, that's rough. I'm not going to lie. That is rough. And I hope that does continue for one more game, in the sake of being a Mets fan. But as for Mets fans, some of them in the chat today, Junior Swingman coming in, Daniel coming in saying, let's go Mets. Daniel Barry Sports Highlights saying happy Tuesday. Hey, everyone, what's going on? Daniel, yeah, I know about the situation. Right now, I'm not looking at it. To be honest, I accepted it before week 1 started. I knew it was going to eventually happen, so it's whatever. They got to get younger. It's whatever. Darren Rivera coming in as well. LGM, of course. Christopher, who was in our pregame. I think your mic is muted, Frank. He's saying, what's up? What's going on?
We have all the Daniels here, and Christopher's completing the doubleheader.
Wow, we have 3 Daniels that just came into here to the chat. We have a Christopher. We have some great names. Daniel saying that the Mets will kick ass tomorrow. Boy, I hope so. I hope they keep this thing going. If you get hot in the postseason, I mean,
That's
who
all
can,
it takes.
who can
Listen,
get it done?
wild card
I mean,
teams
yeah.
have gotten there more frequently lately, so the hot team is what makes it. And like we said, since May 30th, best record. And I mean, this is what it looked like. I mean, like when we talk about the July Mets or whatever like that, you had Budo stepping up, which I think he's really an unsung hero in this game as well. Even though the Mets already had the big lead to get somebody step up, Stanek stepped up. But like we said, to have Winker come in, Iglesias gets all started with the hustle. Vientos. I mean, it's like some of these guys that we talked about all year. JD Martinez finally gets a big hit. Like, you just had so many guys contribute. Tyrone Taylor, a big hit. Like, it's all these things that got them to be that best record in the first place, really showcased in this game. And Severino obviously has started out rough, but for him to still go 6 innings, only allowing the 3 runs, I mean, that definitely was big. So I definitely got to give some props there, because I'll tell you what, when I saw the Brewers pull out Peralta, I was like, oh, the Mets going to stick with Severino. And the Brewers, they had the luxury of doing that because they had so many rested arms that I was like, well, the Mets aren't in that situation, so they have to keep Severino out there. And I was just kind of getting worried because they gave him that lead. He gives it up, and I was like, they gave him another lead. What's he going to do with this one? And he didn't let it slip this time. So definitely some credit there. Only do it with 3 strikeouts, 8 hits, 2 walks. How to get some big double plays, how to get out of some jams, get some timely pop-ups and things like that. So it definitely was just very nice to see these guys step up. And the other big thing, too, is Budo and Stanek, no walks. That was really huge, because it's like we talked about this Brewers team. You keep them off the bases, that's really going to do their damages with the stealing and everything like that. The Brewers, did they even attempt? I don't think they even attempted a stolen base in this game.
No, they did not, but they did stretch some
singles into first to third and doubles on bloops for sure.
They can run this team. They can run.
Yes, for sure.
But at the end of the day, I think that, they got the job done, and this was a collective unit win as per usual as to what they do. We got our third mic coming in here. I'm just switching us over here. Hold on. I know it looks weird to everyone. For those of you who have OCD, hold on. We're good. We're all good.
Magic trick.
Perfect. All right, magic. Awesome. Anyways, Andrew, welcome to the show. You come in a little bit late, tardy, but what did you see? What did you like? Lots of great things to see, because, again, like the great Josh McDaniels would say, you scored more points than the other team, and that's the main goal. So what do you think?
I mean, this MLB Network documentary for this World Series run, starting off legacy, beginning of the game, Severino does not look like he has it early. The freaking Brewers doing the Kansas City Royals effect, just dinking and dunking and stealing and opposite field single and bullshit. But he gets out of it. Limits to 2, you get a nice little comeback. Jesse Winker, with all the FU energy in the world, gotta sign that dude to a 10-year deal. I don't care. He can't leave. He's New York made. Keep him here. Besides the point. And then Severino, he calms down, productive, offense, 2 out RBIs. Who needs homers? Screw that shit. We can do that little small ball bullshit, and guess what? They dinked and dunked him too. And guess what?
2 out hitting.
Who would have thought? That's crazy. In the playoffs. I was told rallies can't happen in the playoffs, but guess what? A 5-run rally, you take it, and the butt dog returns when we need him the most. Jose Budo just Stanek sex. No Reed Garrett. Perfectly fine. Severino calms down. Game 1 in the books. First dip of gravy. Now, hopefully, again, we'll see what the Brewers throw tomorrow. Is it going to be Frankie Montas? Is it going to be... Have we heard it?
I feel like it has to
be.
be.
I'm easy saying it. I don't know if this is actually correct.
I'll check.
The days line up. I mean, who else are they going to go to?
Yeah, I mean, Savali did pitch, which
I
probably were expecting him to pitch. I don't know who would pitch game 3 if they even won.
Ray pitched Sunday, so it's not going to be him. And I don't think they were going to use him regardless, because he was kind of gross this past month. So
I don't know. We'll see.
But again,
we'll see.
Severino calmed down, which was good. Again, you saw him calm down and get through 6. Like I said, Budo was great. Bullpen was great. It's a good win. It's the first of hopefully many. The road team keeps the road team streak going. We'll see if hopefully the Braves don't win, because fuck the Braves. But keeps for at least day one road team winning each game. Good to see. Again, Manaea, we're set up perfectly. Manaea tomorrow, and then maybe we'll worry about tomorrow. But good start again. Good. They got punched in the face early, and they came back with a fucking flying haluva kick. So good start. Now we got to win one more.
All right, then. Well, let's actually run down what happened, the events of this entire game. I'm going to break it down pitch by pitch, so we might be here for a while. No, I'm just kidding. In the first inning, Luis Severino would run into some trouble to start this one off, allowing some ground ball hits. William Contreras would drive in the first run on an RBI single. Rhys Hoskins would get hit by the pitch with the bases loaded to make it 2-0. In the second inning, the Mets would respond following a single from Vientos and a walk to Alonso. Jesse Winker would drive in 2 runs on an RBI triple. Starling Marte would give the Mets a 3-2 lead on a sacrifice fly. But in the fourth inning, Severino would run into some trouble again. Runners at the corners, 1 out. Jackson Chourio would tie the game on an RBI double. William Contreras would give the Brewers the lead 4-3. In the fifth inning, Freddie Peralta would be pulled for Yoel Payamps, and the Mets would have an absolute field day with 2 outs, two on, 2 out. Excuse me. Jose Iglesias would work his magic, beating out an infield single on a grounder to first, sliding head first. Aaron Ashby would come in for Payamps. Mark Vientos would give the Mets a 6-4 lead on a 2-run single. Pinch hitter JD Martinez would add on 2 more on an RBI single to make it 8-4. Sixth inning would come around. Luis Severino would toss a 1-2-3 to finish his day. 6 innings pitched, 8 hits, 3 earned runs, 1 unearned run, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts on 105 pitches. In the 7th and the 8th, that was Jose Butto. 6 up, 6 down in the 7th and 8. Real easy. In the 9th inning, Ryan Stanek would finish it off with a 1-2-3 inning to secure the Game 1 win in Milwaukee. Little snippet here. The Mets went 5 for 7 with runners in scoring position while getting out hit 8-7. Baseball just happens that way. And I will tell you right now, I think that the main thing that we can talk about here is the situational hitting, which was so big in this game, especially with the Mets. We've talked about it before, scoring in bunches, the 0-100 type of thing with how this offense is. They did a really good job just with actual situational awareness. We have seen the Mets squander many opportunities in this little stretch towards the end of the season before they even got to the postseason. And they were able to get the job done on the big stage against, once again, a really, really good Milwaukee pitching staff. No matter who is on the mound, they could dominate. Not to mention, we did go through a lot of their relievers. There are still some other weapons that they didn't use in this game. So hopefully they never get the lead and the Mets fight back once again, so we don't have to face them. But the Mets definitely tore through quite a bit of their bullpen, let's just say that, and most of those pieces that didn't pitch that much were ineffective. So as for the Mets offense, I think that, we had some big heroes. I think Jesse Winker is somebody that we need to bring up first. Of course, it seemed like he was also chirping Adames as well, which was freaking awesome. I mean, this is literally just the most fuck you attitude that we obviously want with the confidence boost of this team. And that's basically what Jesse Winker's here to do. Just be a complete hype man, come up clutch, and just be in these big moments. I talked about it in our pregame, in case you missed it, which lives only on our YouTube channel, will not be available on audio. I talked about it. The man to watch was Jesse Winker, because against Freddie Peralta, he has his number. And you can't really say that about much of these guys going into this game in the lineup, but they were able to get the job done. They were able to get to him quick. He only threw 68 pitches. He just didn't have it. Only 4 innings. And once again, that is their best pitcher. That's their number one pitcher. So, again, you got to him, and now you burn out their bullpen, and then they get into desperate mode once again. But as for the offense, just overall, incredible situational hitting. Like I said, 5 for 7 with runners in scoring position. You can't hate that. Let's say that.
And they were
overall,
like
the
3 for
offensive
30 over the weekend and Monday or something like that. Like
Yep.
it was,
Yeah, there was a really bad stretch. It was a really bad stretch. Not to mention even in that game that they won in Atlanta, there was some
they left
fails
plenty
before
of
they even came
ducks on the
through.
pond. Yeah.
Thank you, Harrison Bader, for that whole thing. But again, water under the bridge. Frank, I'll go to you with this offense of what you saw. Just specifically dissecting it all, just from everything from the lineup. Even when we said before at the top of the show, just a few minutes ago, you said, Lindor didn't even really have to do much. And we still had a collective unit of offense, and that produced 8 runs. And like I said, 5 for 7 with runners in scoring position, which you'll take that any day of the week. You'll take that, in the off season. All right. You'll take that at any time. You'll take that on Christmas, on Thanksgiving. I'm just naming holidays and rambling. So, Frank, I'll go to you. What do you think about this offense in this game? It was pretty good.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it was big. And like people talking about also JD Martinez coming through. So the Mets started off with, okay, let's give Jesse Winker the start because, like I say, has the good numbers against Peralta, want to get a lefty bat in there. And obviously he gets the big hit, he gets the big triple, gets them on the board, ties the game up. But then he's facing the lefty. And as we know, Jesse Winker struggles against lefties. So Mendoza says, okay, I'm going to go to my right-handed DH, JD Martinez. And he comes through with a massive hit. So I think definitely, like people are talking about, some credit does go to Mendoza for making the right decisions there when it comes to the pinch hitting and the lineup that he went with. The fact that, like we talked about, you keep Bader on the bench, let Taylor start. Taylor gets a big double for you. Even Pete Alonso, like he was just drawing walks, so it still isn't what we wanted from his spot in the order, but it's still better than striking out or popping up.
It's better than waving at sliders in the dirt, which he's done all season. So
he did pull a slider instead of going with it and just pulled this to left side as a routine ground ball as his one out. But I think, like we're talking about, though, if you told me, like, Lindor goes hitless, Alonso goes hitless, but they still had all these other guys step up, I think you got to be very encouraged by that. I give credit to Vientos as well because the Mets go down 1-2-3 in the first inning. Strikeout, pop-up. Vientos leads off the next inning with single. And I felt like that kind of broke the ice a little bit as far as, like, okay, now we got run the bases. Now let's try to get something going.
There's another thing I want to add to that, actually. The first batter of the game, Vientos messes up that play on the first single. And this is a young kid, right? This is a rookie. I mean, he's not technically a rookie.
He has rookie experience.
He's young.
By the amount of major league.
He's young. He doesn't have any postseason experience whatsoever. To get that kind of feel of the environment there, kind of get a little bit of a rude awakening, and then just kind of settle himself in there and kind of redeem himself. And then he was like, okay, well, I got this. It's basically just everything I've done all year, and then continue, obviously. But again, I just want to say it's like, there you go.
Exactly. The next half inning. And you know what? I mean, after that ball goes under Vientos' glove, you have a ball that you felt was hit hard, but hit right at Alonso, goes under his glove. You have a ball that's hit to center field on the ground, and Taylor kind of bobbles it a little bit. That allows the runners to move up an extra base. So, you're like, oh boy, batting, the hitters are down 1-2-3. Pitching gives up a couple runs. Defense isn't making plays. You're like, we are getting beat in every aspect. But then sure enough, that didn't stop them, though. That didn't keep them down. And like I said, for Vientos to kind of just start that second inning off right as you wanted with the single, Alonso follows up with the walk, and then the Winker triple happens, and you get the Marte sacrifice fly. So I really felt like that Vientos single just kind of got everyone relaxed a little bit. You don't want to let Peralta get too much in a groove after how easy that first inning seemed for him. So I definitely feel like that was a under the radar, like big at bat that also helped get them going. So like we said, just kind of, especially like when Ashby came in too, I mean, going lefty against Nimmo, And Nimmo, it just goes right with it. And we were talking about this guy is from the left side throwing 99-mile-an-hour sinkers, and they're going right with it. They're going the other way. And like Andrew was saying, they basically did to the Brewers what the Brewers were doing to the Mets, just kind of fighting off tough pitches and just going with it. So I really just liked what I saw from there. And drawing their walks, less chasing and things like that. So, and even we talked about Alvarez, he's an X factor. He goes 0 for 4. So it really just shows that like they had so many other guys step up, and it wasn't the guys who have necessarily predicted, and they're not like their biggest guys. But when you get this many people contributing, it goes a long way. And you get 8 runs on the board, and that just allows everything to kind of fall into place. Severino was able to relax, pitch differently, pitch more aggressive. He wasn't walking nearly as many batters once they gave him that big lead. And then, like I said, Budo and Stanek didn't walk in either. You're just able to pitch a much more comfortable game where you don't have to be so tight and try to be perfect. So I really liked that aspect of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, moving over to Severino for a second, I definitely think that towards the beginning there was some overthrowing, and you can really tell because the velo was way up, and I'm not just saying like throwing hard is overthrowing, but he was just missing a lot of spots that he needed to, especially from the glove side with his fastball. He was able to locate the sinker a little bit better. I was a little bit shocked that they were going a little bit more sinker, to be honest, because I understand wanting ground balls, but the thing is that this Brewers team gets so many goddamn infield hits that it just creates a nuisance. But as for the offense, just in general, I think that, again, just collectively, especially in the middle of the order, we've talked about this before, from the 6 hole today, we got 2 different DHs from both sides of the plate be big contributors to the offense today. And again, like we said, just kind of setting it up in these RBI situations, especially with Pete Alonso drawing 3 walks. I'd rather him do that than just chase everything. But it was just great situational hitting that just got them this win. I don't know how long it's going to. I don't know how long it would last in that point, because there's going to be adjustments that are going to be made. But at the end of the day, they got the job done. Andrew, I'll go to you with the offense of what you saw situationally from this team just collectively as a unit, because they did not hit a single homer in this game, and you really thought that it would be more of a long ball scenario, especially with how Peralta seems to mislocate few pitches at a premium. What do you think?
I mean, again, like Frank said it in pregame, we wanted to see the middle of the lineup produce. Yes, the Polar Bear walked 3 times, so he was doing, his great, early Brandon Nimmo impression. So appreciate it, Pete. Just drawing all these walks that we're gonna pay you for.
He
but
didn't
again,
sprint over to first. So I don't
he
know
didn't. That is true. He didn't hustle. No hustle from the tub. But yeah, again, Mendoza playing, and it seems like most of the year he keeps hitting the right button. He starts Winker because of the matchup. He gets the result, and then JD, who we're all sitting watching that game, saying, "Why the hell are you bringing this old dinosaur up to hit?" And it was just like it was in mid-June. Little opposite field single, tacks on 2 more runs. Marte hit a few fly balls, hit the Churio made that great fucking play in left field. Like he hit the ball
that
pretty
was
well.
a home run. Yeah, that would have been a home run if he didn't catch that.
And then you got obviously and he also has the sac fly to tie the game. Tyrone Taylor again was another productive game as well. And then Alvarez kind of disappointing, nothing. But like again, Vientos first hit right, like I said, right after that tough first inning, gets the hit, gets 2 more RBIs in that in the middle of that rally. So you're getting production, and we've said it, when this team's going right, you can get production 1 through 9. And you saw that. Your MVP 0 for 4. Alonso 0 for 1, they walks, whatever. But you're getting no production from those. You're supposed to 2 big bats, and Nimmo had 1 hit, but it's the other guys picking them up. And that's what, again, Mendoza hitting the right buttons, but again, these guys showing up when they need it, and it just shows the depth of this lineup. That again, you have 2 more, unlike last year when we had 2 fat guys and it was like Winker. When it was Ruff and Vogelbach, you actually have 2 major league caliber guys, couple all-stars as your DHs that can produce. And again, Mendoza continues to press the right buttons, and the luck goes on. So again, you shows, and you bring in Bader for defense, you take Marte out the game. Production from the offense. They bring Acuna in for defense, which at this, yes, do we have the conversation with Vientos at DH? But hey, if they got a righty, keep Winker in the lineup. I think we'll be all fine with that. And then obviously, if you want to do late inning defense, do that. I mean, you can't take Iglesias out this lineup either. Again, this dude's in the middle of everything, and it just shows again this team is just it's a conglomerate of just idiots that are working hard, and and they're doing it in different ways. We all thought the only way they were going to win was going to slugfest. They play small ball when they haven't played small ball most of the year. Now it's time when it's team wins matter. The team's playing how they're supposed to. So again, it's a good game 1, but pitching picked up, good overall win.
Yeah. How nice would it be to see Jesse Winker become like our version of Rhys Hoskins to the Brewers, because he was already getting booed before he even got that hit, and then he's getting booed even more. And he's chirping Willy Adames.
The problem is that
I mean, this is what he thrives on, though.
Our history of killers goes so deep into the realm. Like, I mean, Rhys Hoskins is Pat Burrell. I don't know if for those of you who know Pat Burrell, who I think has over like 35 homers against the Mets, like he destroyed us his entire career. He is legitimately just Rhys Hoskins. They are the same person. Rhys Hoskins didn't burn us that much at all. I mean, he didn't really do much.
Hit by
like we got into his head a little bit.
So
hey, I'd rather that than a grand slam.
Yeah, for sure, because he hit the grand slam over the weekend. But I think that for Winker, this is kind of what we've talked about, that like he loves being the villain. And I feel like with his personality and how his emotions, he's kind of made for this stage in a way. Like, this is what he thrives on. So boo him, because that motivates him. We know as Met fans, you boo the guy, and that just motivates him all the more to actually stick it to you. So go for it. Keep booing him, because that's just what he does.
And if we do end up moving on, let's not boo Bryce Harper, because he feeds off of that shit. But again, that's another story down the line. Speaking of Jose Iglesias being the mix of everything, remix of Oh My God is coming out on October 11th. So make sure to look out for that.
You got a Bad Bunny collab on
there? I mean, I think that, from what we saw today, in the thick of everything, talking about Jose Iglesias, we talked about Tyrone Taylor, being the hustle guy, being that type of thing. We also have seen that from a Jose Iglesias, where we talk about age all the time. He's 34 years old. He's diving headfirst into first base to drive in the tying run, and just continuing to get these, whether it's infield hits, outfield hits, with runners in scoring position. I mean, he has been money with runners in scoring position in these situations, and just knowing what the situation is. No matter if it's righty-righty, lefty-lefty, he's facing high-profile velocity, he's facing ridiculous breaking stuff. He just has been able to get the job done at way more times than most. And I think that that's the main reason as to why they have some of that mentality of coming through. Sometimes it can be annoying, but at the end of the day, they got the job done. And, in regards to Jose Iglesias, I mean, he just continues to be in the middle of everything. And, I don't think I've ever seen a player I enjoy watching for a long time that isn't a power hitter. Like, I've never seen someone just take over a game the way Jose Iglesias has as a New York Met in such a short tenure, even though he probably should have made the opening day roster at the rate it was going.
Joey Wendell and Zach Short were there over him.
Yes. That's crazy. I mean, that's insane. I mean, that's a great lefty-righty platoon when you think about it. But, you always have to have your platoons, in case for every situation. But, I mean, Jose Iglesias just continues to be money. I don't even know how he's doing it. Some of it may be a little bit of luck, but I would just call it devil magic at this point. He's just magical for this entire team.
Yeah, and Mike Mayer actually tweeted this, but 7 of the 8 runs that were driven in by the Mets today were guys who are not on the opening day roster. I mean, between Winker, Martinez, Vientos, and Iglesias. So, I mean, that's also just like kind of the way the season shakes out, where you
Dumpster Dave masterclass.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden these guys step up, and that's big. I mean, especially for how critical I
Now,
was at the trade deadline and plenty of other fans about, you got Winker, but could you got more? In the bullpen, you saw Stanek step up. Could you have got more? And which you could have, but to still see these guys be effective for you, be productive for you in the playoffs is really where it matters most. So, I mean, that's also where the credit goes too.
yeah, of course. I
And,
mean, when
and JD Martinez was
yeah,
added deep in spring training.
yeah.
I mean, like these guys, Iglesias, minor league deal, like they were added on pretty late and they ended up being huge pieces.
Listen, I think that when you think about it in terms of situation, I mean, with the stubborn general manager we had last year, would those adjustments would have been made? I mean, is it possible it would have happened? I mean, we all know how stingy he was on the DHs he brought in. The in roster, the in season moves. I think that it only really was going on with the bullpen with the optional relievers that he had. Again, I'm not going to name this certain person because he has been banned from being in baseball for a year. It's almost up, but I mean, at the end of the day, I think that, it just shows the collective unit that they have put in. And it's also just the awareness of things that aren't working. Let's not feed into the definition of insanity. I think that's something that they really showed. And there are some guys that maybe still probably should not be here, but they did for the most part make the adjustments they needed to and do things on the fly and just really just the full on initiative that they took this entire season has just been very, very impressive and a lot better compared to what we've seen in the past. And if we're going to continue to see those types of adjustments real quick throughout a 162 game season, even to the playoffs, I mean, that's really important when you have these decision makers at the top. Some may call it over managing, but when you see something that's about to fall, you got to make a move. You got to do something because there's trends and then there's waves. We've had tons of trends and waves this year. It's been up and down. And I think that that's the best way to explain it when it comes to, front office decisions of putting guys in to the lineup and plugging guys in and putting them in a good role to succeed as well. I think that they've done a really good job with that as well. Right?
Yeah, and I think when you're talking about the difference and not being stubborn, I mean, you've seen the way Bader basically lost his job and Taylor got it for being the hot hand, even though Bader's making more money. And then there was a time where we saw JD Martinez get a few days off and he was not DHing. So they have shown the ability of you hit, you play kind of thing, which I love.
Yeah.
That Mendoza's
doesn't
not
matter
he goes
how experienced you are. Doesn't matter.
And Marte doesn't need to bat top 3. Alonso doesn't need to bat top 4. JD Martinez doesn't have to bat top 4. There's no egos here. And I really love that Mendoza and this whole regime has taken that style. That's just what helps us win ball games. Okay, that's what we're going to do. If it means benching this guy or moving this guy down, that's what we're going to do. And I really love that philosophy.
I mean, another point you could point out that we didn't even, they benched Jeff McNeil for a second. When he was struggling, there was a lot of accountability this year. There is just one guy who seems to never be held accountable whatsoever. But at the end of the day, I think that, they're really moving in the right direction of how to bring in sustainability because it's really hard to look at something from they did it once, they'll do it forever. And I think that that's the best way that they looked at it for a long time here. And it really started to sting and they really started to regret a lot of moves that they made. But as for the front office and all these other types of moves and everything, all the moving parts, let's get into everybody's favorite segment. Of course, we had ourselves a game, lots of events that happened. Let's get to studs and duds. One player that played fantastic in this game that we want to give the flowers to. There's some obvious, some that aren't obvious. We also have duds who did not play very well, which might be a very select few. Just going to say that. So there's going to be slim pickings there because this was a really good game that they played. Overall, just as a team. Andrew, I'll go to you for your stud of the game.
All right, I'll go with the guy that we needed someone to step up in that bullpen, and he did it for 2 straight innings. I'm giving it to the butt dog. And he looked dominant in those 2 innings, not falling behind batters, getting ahead. And again, we talked about in the pregame how desperate we needed someone in that pen. If it was him or Stanek, we kind of said the idea he had to go 2 innings. He goes 2 absolute clean innings to get the ball to the 9th inning for Ryan Stanek. So especially he's had some up and downs lately to step up, big moment, game 1 of a playoff series, 2 shutty, 3 punchies. Got to give it to the butt dog.
All right, Frank. What do
Yeah,
you think?
I'm going to Vientos. That single got the first rally started, and then he gets the hit that gives them the lead 6-4, and they never looked back after that. So he stepped up on multiple occasions offensively, and again, first career playoff game for him, and you wouldn't know by watching him at the plate. That's something that we've talked about all year. It's his first full season in the big leagues, but you wouldn't know by the way he handles himself, the way he approaches the game, the way he plays. It doesn't look that way. So I just give him so much credit for really looking like a mature player up there. And they had their press conference after the game. Him and JD Martinez were talking about being tired and things like that. And Mark Vientos says it's hard to be tired when you're playing playoff baseball. So that's what we were talking about before, as far as like overall adrenaline could really carry a team a long way past a jet lag, past drinking champagne and things like that. Like adrenaline goes a long way. And this team is definitely feeding off it. Like we said, they were fired up in that dugout as they were making that run. And it felt kind of like a regular season game in that way, with the way they were celebrating and just doing what, like I said, what we've seen all year, like with just how excited they are in the dugout. So to me, I just felt like that's the way to do it. Because if they got to where they are playing a certain way, why would you change that at all? Why would all of a sudden you become serious and press and things like that? Like, no, like you said, no one expect you to be here. You just had fun and did your thing. Just keep doing it. You know what I mean? And so far it's working.
Yeah. And speaking of having fun, I mean, who has more fun than Jesse Winker? I mean, obviously this was a huge hit that he got, bringing us back into the game. Of course, they set the tone with Vientos and Pete Alonso again, drawing 3 walks. But Jesse Winker got that big hit, RBI triple down the right field line. I was actually eating dinner when it happened, and I just heard the crack of the bat, and I was like, what the hell just happened? And Jesse Winker standing on third and hyping up the crowd, and then he's shit-talking Willy Adames. I mean, this is a New York guy. I mean, he belongs here. He's from here. This is the type of guy you want on your team. Is he annoying to play against? Sure. But I've always thought that Winker was a funny guy. I always thought that he was entertaining to see. He's not a fantastic player, but when he does make these moments, he makes it entertaining. I mean, he's a crowd pleaser. Let's just say that. And
he lets you know when he had
puts on a show. Oh yeah. I will tell you, still the most funny thing I've ever seen from Jesse Winker, going into specifics, was when he pretended to not catch that like ball in San Diego or something a few years ago. He fakes out the entire crowd, and then he just goes nuts with the ball in his hand. I mean, first of all, that is just the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, just trolling an entire crowd that's cheering on a home run in San Diego. We all know the San Diego fans love their home runs. It's Slam Diego. They're beating Atlanta right now. But, I mean, just the way that he plays the game, I mean, you can't take everything seriously. Let's just say that. Even though Mets fans will always be tense and they want to win and they're stressed, they got PTSD from everything. But you got Winker here to tell you it's all right. Let's just calm down. And again, yes, he only had 1 hit in this game, but it was a real big one. Set the tone. Let's just say that. And those are the types of dogs you need in the postseason, right, Andrew? Did I say that right? I don't know. All right. Now, speaking of puppies,
Got a little dog.
All right. Speaking of the puppies that we had in this game, there wasn't many, but there definitely were a few. Andrew, I'll go right back to you. Dud of this game?
I mean, I'll go with Francisco Alvarez, an Ofer, and none of the ABs were like not competitive, but not amazing. And I guess especially when I thought, okay, you get a guy that's so heavy fastball, maybe he can make something happen. Does the Ofer? Not a great look.
Yeah, he also had a clock violation. I don't
And the
know what's
clock,
going on
yeah.
with your catcher, Frank. I mean, he's an idiot. What is he doing? But again, this is nitpicking.
Nitpicking.
Frank, go to you.
Yeah, I had the same one. I mean, nitpicking, he was like
Yeah.
the one guy who literally didn't do anything productive offensively. Like Lindor took the offer but drew the big walk. Alonso was technically on base 3 times. Marte had the sac fly. So he's like the one guy who says, as far as not doing anything productive on the offensive end. But defensively, I think having the Brewers not even attempt a stolen base is a good sign. No
Yes.
pass balls, no wild pitches. I thought his framing was really good, saying a couple of strikeouts that he got the Milwaukee looking. I liked the way he was calming his pitchers down. Like I know there's one time when Severino got squeezed and Severino went like this, but Alvarez was like this, like calm down, calm down. So I noticed a lot of that, just kind of easing his pitcher through the ball game. Which again, the 22-year-old shouldn't be doing that to the veteran, but he has a good feel for the game. I find so. I think overall. From the catching standpoint, at least defensively, I think he did a pretty good job. Considering we talked about the idea of maybe DHing him and having Torrens catch, so I think overall that was a good step in the first direction. Because I did have some worries as far as like, could we actually start him with how much this Brewers team could run?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think it was, I don't know, like to start it off, it probably was easier to say Severino, but he was able to settle in off the back of this offense exploding in the fifth. Um, I mean, I really think you're kind of nitpicking here. And I mean, I guess you can go with Alvarez because, like, really everybody played well and contributed in some way. It was just an overall great team effort. I guess I'll go with McNeil for not showing up. I don't know. Like,
That's a
is
good, that is
what
a good one. That's a good one.
like they had news about him? Shouldn't he be in the dugout? Like he
should
just
be-
he doesn't.
exactly.
Does he even care
So
about his
he-
team?
He just had the birth of his child. So
Oh God, this
uh,
fucking
Oh,
God. Oh,
even, okay. So family versus
worth more than the
baseball, and he
team.
chose
Nah.
family.
that's
See,
that's
that's
racist.
what you puts you in the Doug category forever. I mean, you know what I mean? But I think that, at the end of the day, we had just an overall great team effort. And, I think that it was just a great game that they played through 9 innings. I mean, remember when we said like in May before this whole turnaround that I didn't trust this team to play a collective good 9 innings? I mean, look where we are now as compared to that. And not to mention they are doing it in the post season, right? And I think that, this is the big stage here. We've never seen a team not tense up like this. And speaking of not tensing up, and these are just like these few other nitpicking things. Easy coming in earlier saying they were making Terang look like a superstar. Terang, I can guarantee you throughout this entire series, he is going to be the Trent Grisham. He is going to be the Trent Grisham. And hopefully this doesn't last 3 games and maybe they close it out tomorrow. But that's basically how I look at it is, Terang, not the best hitter, good athlete, not having a good season.
50 stolen
And then
bases.
all of a sudden in the postseason just completely destroys the Mets. And I think, that's just crazy to think. Another little detail that I want to talk about for a second. On that Vientos hit, and this is just so random, on that Vientos hit, did anybody see Lindor trip over the bat?
Yeah, he grabbed the bat. Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell just happened? I'm like, and I was like, wait, did just one run score? Like,
he knew Iglesias was going to be coming in hot, so he had to clear the way.
Yeah, I was like, he picks up a bat on on the way in. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Because they show him, they cut to him coming home. And I'm like, what just happened? Because if he tripped and hurt himself, I mean, that would have been a different thing. I mean, my heart dropped.
And you know
for
whose
a second.
responsibility that was? You know who's responsible for getting that bat out of the way? Who didn't? Our chubby first baseman. He was on deck. He's the one supposed to get that bat out of the way.
Yeah, no.
It was also a weird play. I mean, it ended up not mattering, but they showed it where no one was covering second base.
Yep.
That was really weird. Severino is just standing at the mound with Alonso, and we've seen Severino not back up home plate multiple times. And Jose Iglesias, I don't know where he was going. I think he was going to record a song or something because he
He's
went
thinking about that
towards
music
first
video,
base when he should have been at second. I didn't know where he was going, so that was weird too.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see that one, but I did see one. Sevy not covering home or like not backing up home again.
Yeah.
That still
And
is.
we didn't even talk about yesterday Diaz not covering first, which was almost the play of the game.
And I was gonna. I knew exactly as soon as that that happened.
Why are we talking about the past?
No, I'm just saying we didn't mention it yesterday.
Hey, this game is in the past too, technically.
Well, but
if you want to start splitting hairs.
Well, it's regular season baseball. We don't care about the regular season no more. It's playoffs.
Okay. You know what? Hey. Get out of my ear. All right. Thanks. Did Carson just laugh? No. Hologram. M Easy talking about Stanek improving. I mean, he's had a few decent stretches coming through. I don't know if he's in the full-on circle of trust where you're putting him in the 8th or 7th inning every single time in these high-leverage situations. But he does have this postseason experiences to why he was regarded as one of the best relievers in the game coming into this season. But obviously, he struggled with Seattle, and with the Mets, it's been up and down. But, I mean, he has a history of being good. We know that he spams the strike zone a lot, so he can give up some hard contact, but he challenges hitters. And it's a lot better than just, guys like, I don't know, like nibbling around the strike zone. He's just the guy that goes in there and, gets the job done, especially in those high leverage situations, which again is what you're going to need. That type of pitching that we got tonight, especially from a bullpen that was shorthanded, did not have its best weapons. They got the job done. Stanek, in his career in the postseason, by the way, 2.70 earned run average. Results are the only thing that matters. 21 innings pitched. It'll probably lower after today. That's just before he came in here. And he got another scoreless inning. So, I think, at the end of the day, they did what they needed to do just to overcome like what they've come to, because not only have they played a great game, but they also had some really big stipulations that not many other teams really had to face. And they had a shorthanded bullpen because they had to bring it all the way down to the wire of 161 to clinch. They had a rotation that was set up in a different way where it definitely went their advantage because they had, they were able to line up Severino, Minaya for game 2. But Severino also has struggled a little bit towards the end of September. So, and this wasn't the best performance from him, but he was able to get the job done and keep us in the game. I think that once it became 8-4, he was able to relax a little bit, not tense up. And that was really good to see. Again, we are going to see a team that's probably just as loose as they were tonight. I hope that they are. I hope they keep the good times going, but they're going to be loose around a Sean Manaea, who has a lot to prove in this one, because the last time he faced Milwaukee last week, it did not go well. And we will have the full-on analysis on that going into Game 2 tomorrow for our pregame show. But as for some other comments that came in here talking about Severino, Jeff Kaplan coming in saying, so impressed that Severino, after a rough couple of innings and some strike zone squeeze by the ump, he adjusted and he really hit shutdown mode. And I really think that the back of the offense, again, it was just, he wasn't tensing up as much. Chiros, I think he's saying Chirios, Darren Rivera saying Chirios makes great plays, then he messed up that line drive. Yeah, I mean, we saw, I don't know, it was like the first game of the regular season series in Milwaukee. They like drop one pop-up. Like, this Brewers team is an incredible defensive unit. So when you see something like that, you got to take advantage of it because you don't get those opportunities every single time.
Yeah, and they said he's mostly a center fielder too, and he was playing a corner there. Yeah. It was a weird play. And they showed that they're like hot. They're really good in DRS, really good in OAA. they were good at no defensive metric they showed, but they make errors. I think they're like 6th most in errors. So it was like a mixed bag. But with their speed, it makes sense why their range is so phenomenal because they can get to everything. They have speed literally everywhere.
So it's probably like noodle arms or something. I don't know, probably. Because it doesn't seem that they make that many fielding errors. Maybe it's throwing errors because I'm pretty sure we saw Adames airmail a throw in our series in the regular season. So I mean, we'll see what happens. And again, I think that going into game 2, you got the first one out of the way. You now have 2 tries to finish this one up. Hopefully they do it tomorrow. With your ace on the mound somewhat, I mean your Chris Sale variant on the mound. But we'll see. Easy coming in with a question here saying, do you start Winker or JD tomorrow? So Frankie Montas, I think Jesse Winker has the good history against him. I think that's another one where he's just destroyed him. I'm pretty sure Jesse Winker just owns the Brewers in general.
And another reason why they hate him is because then they traded for him last year and he didn't do good with them.
Yeah.
So it's just like,
yikes.
Those are the worst. Those are the worst. We've had plenty of those in our time, so we understand the pain.
And it's not like Winker has been incredible for the Mets since, but he's definitely filled a role for us.
And like we said, you can make up for it real quick in the postseason. And the same can be said for JD Martinez. I'll be okay with a bad second half if you give me a good postseason. So,
hey, he's addicted to the playoffs.
A great start. Let's just say that
he's addicted.
He is addicted to the playoffs, and he's back on the bender. Let's just say that he's back in the postseason. Jesse Winker against Frankie Montas. He is 2 for 8 against him, and he has 2 singles. So I mean, I think, we'll see how that goes. I don't know. I don't think JD really ever faced Frankie Montas at any point. But either way, with the platoon, you can flip flop them either or, because with the outfield, you definitely have, a little bit more flexibility. Yeah, he's 2 for 10 against him with, 2 walks or something, 1 extra base hit. So it's kind of just splitting hairs on that one with the DH.
So the last time they faced Frankie Montas, JD Martinez and Jesse Winker were out there. They both were hitless against Montas on Friday.
That was the one where we got a little frustrated with them in the middle of the line.
Yeah, Lindor had the multi-hit game. Vientos broke a couple runs. Iglesias had a 2-hit game. So I feel you're going to see the same top half of the order like Lindor, Iglesias. So you're going to see some of that. But as far as who's in after, we'll see. But I feel like you're going to see a pretty similar combination. Alvarez played, Taylor played. So you're going to see a pretty similar combo to what you saw on Friday. Maybe different order by having Iglesias hit higher. But other than that, same personnel.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what they actually do. I mean, that's going to probably be a manager masterclass that you're going to have to overcome with somebody like Carlos Mendoza, where it was pretty obvious of Freddie Peralta because Winker has pretty much owned him. But, we'll see. Again, I think that, also coming in here, M-Easy, a very big critic of Pete Alonso for a long time, saying he wants to see him flex the power. Last home run was September 19th. That's quite a while. But in the end of the day, I'm just looking for them to win the game. I really could care less what Pete does unless he's in those situations. He didn't really have to do much today. And then, that's a conversation we're going to have in the offseason, of course, regarding his free agency, which, it might get a little bit exhausting in my opinion, but, whatever. For those of you in the chat, if you have not voted on our poll yet, asking the player of the game, 38% of you are saying Jesse Winker. 38% of you are saying Mark Vientos, 17% of you are saying Jose Budo, 7% of you are saying other. So for those of you who did vote other, let us know. If you're not in here anymore, screw you. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, Braves 0 runs through 6 innings. Looked like a team that would be kind of tired after a doubleheader.
Yeah. They haven't
If only they
tried.
could have avoided it.
Yeah.
If only they could have avoided
No,
it.
no. You see, I've never heard of them playing at neutral sites before, as Brian
True.
Snitker would say.
Yeah, they
True.
never done
Um,
it. Yeah.
No,
That's not
no,
fair.
absolutely. Listen,
Gotta sell those hot
I don't
dogs.
think anything there. To be honest, nothing ever goes the Braves' way. When you think about it, like there's just never anything that goes the Braves' way. I mean, they are oppressed more than any franchise known to man. I mean, I think that we have to realize that yes, Mets fans are they've had their rough times, but it's nothing as compared to Braves because I mean, they really have really been at the short end of the stick for a long time.
Yeah.
Now, as I'm done as I'm done lying my ass off, let me just move to this comment, which I believe, I mean, it's pretty much easy. Ricardo coming in saying ESPN is horrible. I can't tell if that Vientos base hit was an out or the outfield, shaking my head. Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know why they don't just let, if the Mets are in the playoffs, just let the home announcers announce, and they'll just announce like that. Just it'll just be so much better. Like fans would want to watch it. Like
I kind of like
better.
what
I mean,
I think it's Roku does it, where they have like one announcer from one team and one announcer from the other team. I don't mind that because sometimes the other announcer could give you some insight about the other team they watch on a daily basis. I think that's fair. It's like a lot more unbiased and not have to be forced to hear the national broadcasters.
I didn't even know who they were. Like they said their name. Who the hell are these fucking guys?
Yeah, it wasn't their A squad. I mean, that's for sure.
yeah, I mean their A squad.
They had
is,
Michael
K,
they had
right?
Michael K on earlier. Then they have
No
one's better than Michael
Perez
K,
and them on
you know?
now. So
I mean, no one's better than Michael K. Let's just say
He's
that. I
part of
mean,
the best
there's
Brewers
nobody
in
better.
baseball.
Even though there's plenty of websites that said there's like 21 of them like that are higher than him. But that's just extra fluff. Extra fluff information.
And I was just saying,
yeah,
talking about like around the league, the Mets having 8 runs. You look at the rest of these games: Tigers 3 runs, Kansas City 1 run, as of right now San Diego 3 runs. So the Mets scoring 8 as the one team today. I thought that was pretty interesting as well, as having like the best offensive output going against the Brewers pitching. Where I mean, Pat Murphy said he goes, "Listen, I went to 2 of my best relievers after I took out Peralta. I didn't want him to face the lineup a third time." So the Brewers, they really kind of went out there and it did not work for them.
Was Pat Murphy ever one of the candidates for our manager job? I feel like he was in the mix.
I feel like
for
he
some
had
of
to
it.
be at some point because we've
Probably.
had so many openings. I feel like he
Yeah.
had to be.
Yeah, at one point. I mean, I know Bob, not Bob,
Bob.
Guerin. What's his name? Bob
Bill
Guerin.
Guerin.
Is it?
Oh,
Yeah.
the bench coach.
He was in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if he was with the Brewers at any point as well.
Mm,
I mean, there's some other details we can get into. Obviously, this is just one game that we're recapping here, so we can go off the rails a little bit into these conversations and go into a little bit more of the specifics. There was one moment where I thought was absolutely ridiculous when they were talking to Christian Yelich, asking him if it was hard for him to watch while injured. I mean, no fucking shit. Obviously it was, especially when he's a key player on that team. I mean, it's just such a lazy way they broadcast these games, and it's just so like it's so I don't. Is it type A? Is that what I'm trying to say? Like it's just like this. It's this generic way of presenting baseball because we already know that at ESPN
They don't care.
their main source is football and basketball. Like when you turn on ESPN during the day, you have Sports Center, all of them talking about pretty much football and baseball. So football and basketball, and baseball just seems like the one second fiddle thing. When it seems like I can't even like comprehend just like how annoying it is to watch it. It's just I feel like I just feel like the games are longer. They're always just longer. And it's not just like I'm not saying it's just like from, commercial breaks or just the way they advertise it, but it's just, I come to myself getting very annoyed during ESPN broadcasts where I'm just like, I've always found myself like, oh, it's only the fourth inning, it's only the sixth inning. Like it just seems like it just
like this
drags
was still
on
a
so
3-hour
much.
game, even though we have a pitch clock.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you had a little bit more like pitching moves,
Pitching changes,
of course.
yeah.
Like you had some more stoppages,
A
obviously.
little bit, but towards the end, everyone got in a group. The Brewers bullpen eventually got in the group, as you see here. Once Myers came in and Savali came in, and then the Mets bullpen was in a group. So those late innings should have went by much quicker than they did.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think, if the end result is the Mets scoring more than the other team, I feel like it's a success. Yeah. To be honest, I always feel like the team playing the Mets on ESPN gets more of the spotlight no matter what. But you do get a little bit from both sides. We know how ESPN has kind of always tried to downplay the Mets a lot because you have a lot of writers from ESPN that have a little bit of a distaste for us, including even Jeff Passan's done it before. Yeah, I'm name dropping right now. That's where we're at right now. Buster Olney, the great.
I just has salty feelings because he didn't get a job. There's another guy who's been in.
That's another guy I can't listen to. I want Gary, Keith, and Ron. Just let me do it. Let them do it. Come on. It's entertainment for everyone. I mean, they keep everyone entertained, no matter if they're getting blown out or not. No matter what, they know what to do at any certain situation.
And if they advance, I'm pretty sure they're getting Fox, so it's going to be Smoltz.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Ronnie's doing TBS for the Yankees with the Orioles. Well, maybe Yankees Orioles, could be Yankees Royals, but Ronnie's going to be on TBS, which kind of stinks.
Ooh,
I remember when
2015
we had TBS with Ron and we had Ernie Johnson. Like that was a great broadcast.
Yeah,
but
that's good.
This time around, I don't. Unless we're getting Smoltz again, I hope Wayne is somewhere involved. But
yeah,
but
it's gonna be rough.
I will say it would be satisfying if the Braves do lose, the Mets advance, and Smoltz has to do the Mets game. I feel like that would be something we all deserve, I feel like we all deserve that, just like in the back of our minds, like that's something that I would love to hear him just have to talk about the Mets and not have to bring up anything regarding the Braves. He probably still will. But, I think... Jesus Christ. Okay, this is actually really funny. Christopher T coming in saying ESPN is the equivalent of clogging a toilet at a cute girl's apartment you took on a date. Yeah, pretty much. Listen, I to be honest, I know that Ricardo's saying, please, Carson, I don't want Smoltz anywhere near a Mets game. I get that, but a salty Smoltz is even better than no Smoltz at all. Personally,
and especially playing the Phillies,
just hearing the salt. Yeah, the salt in his voice, it's just you can hear it. You really can hear it. But for those of you who voted on the poll, looks like it's pretty balanced. We have different guys, which means it's a collective unit of a win that they got today. We're only about an hour and 10 minutes in. We are going to probably go until an hour 20. Like we'll stay on. Again, we're just reviewing one game, and also we have pre-game and post-game streams to do tomorrow. If necessary, there will be for Game 3 as well. Hopefully it's not, because we just want to get a day of rest for this team because they have not been able to rest. Even though it seems like restless, they have continued to push the way that they have and just being relentless off of the adrenaline of postseason baseball. But it would be nice to give them just one day of rest where they're not in that scenario. Do they get 2 days of rest if they finish it up in 2 games? 2 days.
If one of the series goes 3, yeah.
Oh, what are we gonna do? But yeah, I mean, we'll probably be watching some of the other series as well. Any updates from San Diego going on?
I think
here?
It's still 3-0 Padres.
See.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
Listen,
So
feel the
the
heat,
big
Atlanta.
part is that Devin Williams is still available, so that really stinks.
And Trevor
And
McGill,
McGill, yeah.
And McGill, and they warmed him up though, I think at one point, but
who I wanted to see the Mets try and pick up, but
Yeah.
then you guys like, no, not
more
another
McGills.
McGill.
One McGill's
No
enough.
more McGills. Meanwhile, this guy will gas 102 past you, and then
Man.
you're like, oh.
Just give me Ben Joyce.
But
a little better.
yeah, he's been one of the best relievers in baseball this year. So. But yeah, I think when we look at it from this win, you hope that they can carry it in to the next game.
But I do wonder who Milwaukee would start for Game 3 though, because I don't know.
What is
it's
their
pretty
postseason
confusing.
roster even looking like?
Brandon Woodruff
It's
out of
like
nowhere.
they had Savali on the roster.
Nope.
Could you
I
imagine
guess
they would have
maybe
to go to
Myers
a bullpen game?
could go because he did 4 innings, like bullpen game like the way they did Saturday against the Mets. I guess, but
Could.
I don't know.
How about we just whoop their ass and not have to worry about it?
No, I mean of course.
I mean,
but
hey, we're just playing it for every
yeah,
situation, okay?
just curious if anyone. in
We
the
are
chat
very
knows,
curious.
because
Do they have their
haven't,
roster?
they
Yeah.
haven't really talked about it.
My phone's dead.
Because
We'll
we
see.
everyone knows the Mets is gonna be Manaea, and then if anything, it'd be Quintana with maybe a little bit of Peterson. So, but the Brewers,
DL
I feel like
Hall
it's
maybe
kinda
starts.
a mystery.
Maybe
DL
Hall
man.
starts. Joe
Huh?
Ross, maybe.
Possible.
I
Yeah,
don't know
we
if he's a
saw
reliever
Ross pitch. Yeah, he's really. We saw him pitch. What I think it was Sunday, no, or one. He
Mhm.
pitched in one of the games over the weekend. Oh,
Yeah, so
All right, let's see. What's
Jared
their roster
Koenig,
look like?
maybe? he started
He
against us
pitched-
in one of those games of the regular
he
season.
only did an inning. Yeah.
Stem coming in saying, "What's the story with Max Krennic?" We actually talked about him on our pregame show. If you want to go check that out, you can. But he was injured for quite a while, and they called him up. He was a lifelong Mets fan. It seemed like they needed to bring in a body because Alex Young, after being optioned for Joey Lucchesi to make that spot start, he's not eligible to come back, so they needed to get an arm from AAA. Max Krennic, about like a sub-4 ERA across the Mets minor league system this year, got hurt in spring training, hamstring. He has not pitched in the majors since 2022. He most likely will be in mop-up duty because he can pitch multiple innings. He's been a starter and stretched out as a starter before. But, if he does well, he could do well. But, at the end of the day, his minor league piece that they brought in, claimed off of waivers from Pittsburgh. He's 27 years old, lots of years of control. So maybe it'll happen. Jeff Kaplan saying, would you say that the bullpen strengths are a bit more even for tomorrow? Most likely, I would say that. I don't see them going 2 innings for Diaz tomorrow, mainly because they have the advantage in this series. So they're probably only going to give him 1. To be honest, I would hope to not see Diaz at all in this series and just blow them out tomorrow and just give him some of the rest. I know I've talked about him pitching a lot, but I feel like there was definitely quite a toll that went on in the bullpen in Atlanta, but they had to get the job done in that case. But, I think that whatever they have in store for Game 2, that's what we will be discussing for tomorrow on the pregame stream. For those of you in here who are listening on audio in the future, for those of you watching on playback, our pregame shows, it's more of just shooting the shit and basically shouting out some numbers and our every single internal thought of what we think is going to happen. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes we get nervous and, just getting out the pregame jitters. Let's just say that. That only lives on our YouTube channel. You can also watch it on X while it is live. But the audio will not be out on our Spotify because it just makes sense as to where, it's only really relevant for about 3 hours, and then we get into the next part. Even though, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, also another thing you can put in with Max Krennic, with the other pitchers talking about Lucchesi. We've talked about him before, that maybe they just don't like him.
High walk numbers in AAA, I think, with the walk
Probably
bumps they
that'll
have
do
here
something,
already.
yeah.
So I can see sandwich.
Yeah.
He had quite a few walks yesterday too, so
Mm-hmm.
I can see the walks being a concern. He didn't have his chirp yesterday. Fastball velo's not great, so
Yeah.
he's had the results in the 2 starts he's gotten so far in the big league level this year, but I feel like there's some underlying stuff that gives them concern.
Yeah, I think that he's just an innings eater. Like, he really is. But not really in the sense where he could still get himself into trouble and allow a lot of base runners. It's not like the Trevor Williams type that you can just put him in that role because he's been a starter before and he can give you those types of innings. A guy that throws like that and throws around the strike zone, you're not really going to get much. Trevor Williams, somebody who throws a lot of strikes and contact manages well. So, I don't know. I think that he's a piece that if they want to hang on to because he's back on the 40-man roster, I mean, he's one of those guys I would try to move. I don't know, try to get something back because I'm pretty sure he's going to have he has one more year of arbitration, or maybe he's a free agent after this year. Maybe. Is he a free agent? After this year? Is he done after this year? Lucchesi?
He might be ARP3.
He might be. He could be.
Yeah.
I think that sounds right.
2026, he's a free agent. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think the Mets would want to really.
2 years.
Yeah, so he's got 2 more years of control. I don't know. If they want to keep him around, they can keep him around, but I don't really see them giving $1.7 million to Joey Lucchesi to just pitch in the minor leagues as minor league depth. Especially when we have such great depth of David Peterson and Tyler McGill, right, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, hell, I saw a tweet which I wanted to bring in yesterday, which I laughed. We won a series to send us to the playoffs. We couldn't do it with Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom, but Tyler McGill and David Peterson were the ones that pitched the Mets in the playoffs. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. And even Severino, I mean, he outpitched a Max Scherzer today, so there's that as well. And then on the flip side, Justin Verlander left off the Astros roster, and the Rangers didn't even make the postseason. They have DeGrom and Scherzer. Obviously, DeGrom's been hurt, but still, that's how it goes sometimes. I know they won the World Series last year, but it's interesting to think about.
Weird flex, but okay. Steb coming in saying, do I think Jeff McNeil will be gone in 2025? I mean, we're going into off-season stuff now. It's hard to say because of the contract. I don't know how they're going to really move it because he is getting a $3 million raise next year. But it all really depends on what they want to do in-house, because do you want to keep Iglesias around for another year? Where do you put Acuna? Where does Jet come into the conversation? It all depends what they want to do here. Could they possibly ride his second half that he had before he got injured and try to get some value from him? But we'll see what happens there. But again, that's more off-season talk. Yeah. But Ricardo saying that he feels like Lucchesi's been in the league for a while. He's been with us for the entire Cohen regime. He was one of the first moves that we made. So he's been here for 4 years in the Mets organization. One of the years he was out because of Tommy John surgery. Yeah. He came back, and he did pitch well for us down the stretch of eating innings to get to the end of that season last year in 2023 when they sold at the deadline. But I think I think that they'll make those decisions when they have to come to it. I want to see them kind of bring in a little bit more depth for the rotation, especially, of course, when you have a lot of some of these guys going to free agency. Minaya, Severino, Quintana, and we'll see. Again, Severino, good enough to put us in a position to win. Again, like we said multiple times, And I think we'll wrap it up here. As for our post-game podcast episode, for those of you listening on audio, for those of you watching on playback, make sure to tune into our YouTube channel tomorrow for pregame coverage of Game 2, which will be about 90 minutes before the game starts, which I do believe is a different time than today.
Yeah, because tomorrow is a 7:30 game, so maybe around
Tomorrow
6.
is a 7:30 game. Okay. Yep, 30. So that will most likely be 6 o'clock when we will go live
Eastern
for that
Standard
pregame
Time.
show. Eastern time, for those of you, people that live in Central Time are just weird people.
Hey.
But, yeah. What did I say wrong?
I mean, you're not wrong, but stop.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. I'm not wrong. So why did you pause me? Okay. Anyways.
What?
And then, of course, the post-game show. That will be out about, 20 minutes after the game as well, which we are doing right now. So coverage all postseason long and, of course, into the offseason until the Mets are eliminated from the playoffs. I hope we can continue to do these. That means that the Mets are still making a deep playoff run. This was just game 1. Still tons of games to win to get to the promised land. But it's great to have postseason baseball back in Queens. Hopefully we can get it to Queens. Win this series, wrap it up tomorrow. Game 3 if they need to. But for those of you who are in here and just came in here and watched the entire show, for those of you who popped in for a little bit, for those of you watching on playback, for those of you watching on audio, make sure to hit the subscribe button on the Mets Weekly channel for this very podcast, which will now be after every single postseason game, and then into the offseason, we'll let you know where that gets scheduled. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on TikTok, all of us individually as well. All the links are in the description. Great win today. Mets now lead the series 1-0 in Milwaukee, an 8-4 victory, and flipping the script as for the regular season against a team that killed us. Let's hope that the San Diego Padres can finish this one out, and we can knock the Braves out of the playoffs, because we are just sick and tired of them. Anyways, we will see you guys tomorrow for the pregame show as well as the postgame show. Tons of content coming your way. Let's go, Mets. We'll see you guys next time.